tagging that conversation to the conversation we had in studios earlier on. All right, so this morning let's get into a kickstarter conversation, and we'll be talking matters to do with security. Now, since the beginning of this year, there have been numerous unresolved murders involving guns in and around Kampala. The latest is that of Arnold Anibona, who was gunned down by a security guard at a supermarket in Nalia. This happened on Tuesday this week. This has raised concern over the issue of acquisition, registration and regulation of guns, especially those in private hands. Members of Parliament too have raised concern over the ongoing attacks on mobile money agents by armed robbers within the country. Nakaseke South Member of Parliament, Mr. Semakula, raised the matter on the floor of the House this week and demanded an explanation from the Internal Affairs Ministry. So in studios, we'll be having that conversation, and I'm joined by Mr. Or Afande Luke Oesijire, the Deputy Police Spokesperson, Kampala Metropolitan Area. Thank you so much for making time.
You're welcome.
You're welcome to Morning at 10 TV.
Thank you.
Next to him, I'm joined by Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaro, Member of Parliament's Defence and Internal Affairs Committee. Thank you so much for making time, and welcome to Morning at 10 TV.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honorable, I think I'll start with you before I go to Afande. You know, matters to do with security, insecurity in the country. I remember last year we did have that wave, and it topped the headlines. It was a real scare, a real worry. I think the nature of crime that took center stage last year was kidnaps and murders. Mr. Luke, if I'm right? That was 2018. Now 2019 and 2017 as well. 2019 now, that particular crime pattern has changed, and now we're seeing mobile money agents being, murdered. Just the other day, what happened on Tuesday, and the ministry has been tasked by Parliament to explain what is happening. Honorable Jenje Odong was on the hot seat just a few days ago, tasked to explain, and of course we'll be expecting him to come with a response to Parliament in a few days' time. What do you make of this, and what could be the genesis of this particular pattern of crime in the city, within the city of late?
Now, thank you very much. First of all, security need to be analyzed in three ways. One is human security. The second one is state security. Then the third one is regime security. Human security has got to do with the safety of the people and their property. The people of Uganda, the citizens and their visitors. State security has got to do with the safety of the state in terms of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of our country. Is there any country threatening to cut any territory of Uganda or to colonize Uganda? That's about state security. Then the other one is the state institutions. Are they under threat to the extent that they may not function properly, to the extent that the state of Uganda may not work well? This is about state security, like things like the security forces, police, army, intelligence, and then critical infrastructure which affect the survival of the state, economical maybe, things like bridges, big roads, critical roads, dams, power, this kind of infrastructure. When we talk about this, we talk about state security. Then regime security. Regime security is about the survival of the regime in power.
Okay.
And the threats to that kind of security are also different, because here there is contestation for power, and the regime in power may focus more on its survival than on the survival of the people and their property, or the safety of the people and their property. So we need to look at this. These things which are happening here more affect human security. They affect the people and their property. When you see people in ordinary marketplaces being gunned down, or mobile money operators being gunned down, robbery is taking place. These are about human security. Most of the problems we've been facing in Uganda are human security problems. The state is safe. There is no foreign power that has come to annex any part of Uganda.
Not yet.
Not yet.
There's been conversations between Rwanda and Uganda.
But that one, yes.
That is being handled.
That is being handled.
Okay.
It's not as grave as this. Then when we come to regime security, that's another problem where there's a big problem of insecurity. The regime doesn't feel safe to the extent that their competitors seem to be putting them at bay and directing resources which were meant to protect the people and their property to protect the regime more. My brother here may be directed to protect the regime more than the people. And that's where the resources of the police are lost, from protecting people to protecting the regime. You know, much money goes to buying tear gas. Much money goes to buy those things which are used to suppress people, other than protecting the masses. That's where the problem is. So now, another thing which you see here is that even those who have the political control over the security forces, they don't have confidence in the professional police to do the professional work. That's why they get people from the army and deploy in the police. Actually, I'm not very sure whether my brother here is not from the military, particularly from the SFC. Because this is the trend these days which goes on. All in all, we have problems. Now, this recent thing which happened with our brother
Honorable, before you touch on that,
yes,
you have broken down security into three.
Yes.
Human security, state security, and regime security.
Yes.
And out of these three, you've said that two are pretty much, quote-unquote, under attack, so to speak.
Yes.
We are having issues with human security. We are also having issues with regime security.
Yes.
Many didn't think there's an issue with regime security. What has been happening in the political space is that enough for us to say that there's an issue with the regime security, the security of the regime, the ruling party in Uganda.
You see,
is that enough?
There is a lot to do with the regime security, because if the regime doesn't feel safe to the extent of allowing people freedom of association, freedom of expression, that is a problem. Today, you know of the Public Order Management Act, Public Order Management Act, which was intended to control public meetings. But now it has gone beyond public meetings. Even when you have a private meeting in a private home, the police is there. You go for a radio talk show, they stop the radio talk show. Right now as I speak, two journalists from a radio station called Ulogo FM in Germany have been suspended from their work because members of Forum for Democratic Change, including myself, Dr. Besije, Engineer Amoriat, and the leadership in German. Engineer Amoriat is our party president. We went for a talk show. We paid for the talk show after a meeting in a hall, which was arranged properly according to the Public Order Management Act. The meeting took place successfully, but in the evening we went for a radio talk show. We paid 1.6 million shillings for the radio talk show. The radio had no problem with us because they took our money and they gave us a receipt for that. And we had no problem with the radio. People were informed that, okay, talking to the public will be in the evening. But when we arrived at the radio station, we found the radio station was sealed off by police, heavily armed police. We found there was a fight between the staff of the radio and the police, because you see, you people who are in the mass media, you have shifts. Those who, like you work now, then you'll get out, other people come. So those who are supposed to get out at 7, so that another group comes in, could not come out of the radio station. Those who were supposed to go in could not go in. So we arrived, we found there was a fight between the radio operators and the police, number one. Now when we arrived there, we were told, you cannot go there. There's no radio talk show today. We said, now why? We have a receipt here.
Right.
So, and to end the story, to save time here, there is a problem. The problem here is the regime is the one fearing the speech from ourselves. Because we, as a political party, we are the competitors of the regime.
Okay.
So that's where those policemen who were there can be counted as diversion. They are diverted from protecting people in the villages. Suppose some people were killed in Ajumani somewhere for lack of presence of police, when the police were wasting time at a radio station stopping people from going for a talk show which was paid for. The same happened in Moyo when we went. They say a radio talk show also was stopped.
Right.
Now, when we went for a funeral in Yumbe, a funeral, our own person called Angoliga Salim died in Kampala here. He was taken and buried in Yumbe. Some of us didn't go for the burial at the time when it was done, and you know, in African culture, funerals are not like closed by timetable. Those who were not there at the time of burial can come later on. But these days, the imams need permission from police in order to lead funeral prayers.
So what you're saying is
that
when
we went there, we found we were stopped from going to the funeral. The same applies to what happened.
So what you're saying is that now it's moving from political intolerance to it being a matter to do with regime security.
Regime security,
all right.
That's the problem.
Okay, Mr. Luko Estejire, police has been, criticized over this particular period where we've been seeing insecurity within the city. It's quite unfortunate. Just the other day on Tuesday, we lost a young person, 26-year-old, gunned down, killed, unfortunately. Already, just the other day, was it yesterday, the family had a requiem mass for him. Quite unfortunate, of course. And questions have been coming through. Are we really safe within the city? Who are these people who are being allowed to hold firearms within the city?
Very good morning. Going direct to the question that you've presented to me, who are these people that are carrying these firearms? And to the specific incident that happened on Tuesday in an area where a young man was killed, actually in cold blood. The gentleman who actually committed this atrocity had a license to carry this firearm because he was a security guard, and as per the fact that he's a security guard from a private security organization, he has a license to carry that firearm. It is unfortunate how this all escalated from a simple scratch to a minor accident, then to the murder of someone. But we are trying to do as much as possible to see that this gentleman is brought to book. We actually is receiving positive to the medication that he's been given, and his statement, of course, will be gotten. Well, as police, we condemn such actions.
Okay. And, questions have been coming through with regards to the process of acquiring a firearm.
Yes.
Please bring us to light with regards to this, because people are saying maybe the process is not thorough enough. If such a person can be, you're saying he was licensed to to man that particular gun, to own that gun. So what is the procedure and process like?
Well, the procedure and process is, I'll look at it into the aspect of the security company. This is a private security organization, and one of their mandates is to complement on the security of the country. Of course, as you see, as Uganda develops, the population goes high, and probably there's some unemployment, or a lot of unemployment in the area. Criminality will also become high. So some services are brought into the private sector, like the private security organization, to give security and sometimes investigate some cases. Of course, giving reports to the CID of Kampala Metropolitan, to make sure that those crimes that are investigated by private security companies are thorough and see the light of court. Yes, there is a process they go through. You have to register from URSB. After registering from URSB, you bring that registration to the security committee of a district, which I believe is headed by the RDC. They will in turn inform the DPC, and the DPC will inform the CID and crime intelligence to investigate this company to see whether the directors of this company are not criminals or are not former criminals. So when all that is done, the matter is forwarded to the IGP, and a license is given for them to operate.
Okay.
What happens now after the big shots are given licenses to operate? The recruitment process. The people they recruit, have they former criminals or not? That investigation has been done. That part of investigation has been done, and they're found not to be criminal. But when they come out to the field and do such things, they leave the public in doubt.
Who investigates into this, people who've been, recruited by these security agencies?
That is the crime intelligence.
Okay, so they're the ones who do this.
Yes.
But before they hand over a gun to person X, for example, let me just take an example of David Rukasi, my co-host in this show.
Yes.
Do they go a step further over and above just checking the crime record or the track record of David Rukasi? Do
Yes.
they go a step further to look if David Rukasi is in his rightful state of mind to hand a gun or to operate a gun, so to speak? Mentally, emotionally, psychologically, do they go to those details?
Yes, they do, because that is very important. The investigation does not necessarily stop at the person in particular. We do background checks. We talk to the people who know you. You get recommendations from people who know you. And if anything, if a red flag is raised against you that you're not mentally stable, we cannot, of course, permit you. But maybe these problems, like his mental situation or a psychological situation, can change after being recruited into the what? Into the service of private security.
Right.
So we need maybe to enhance the supervision to make sure that maybe these people receive enough counseling during the course of time as they work.
Honorable, you sit in this particular committee, the Parliament's Defence and Internal Affairs Committee. Are we going to crack this nut anytime soon? Matters to do with insecurity. And there's been conversation. For example, our neighboring country, Kenya, has been having conversations of borrowing what is happening in Uganda and, arming the private security guards, So is it a direction we want to maintain, or is it something that maybe we need to think about twice and maybe withdraw the firearms from these private security guards? What's the direction?
For me, first of all, what happened here in this case, my brother from Nalia, the supermarket, in the names of Arnold and Iguana, very unfortunate. This really gives us a scenario of saying that given the time and the place where this brother was killed, we ask the question, where are we safe and when are we safe?
Right.
Because the time should have not been the time where we say such things should happen. And the place is a good place. And also the people where he was killed, the persons who killed him were people who were meant to protect people and their property.
Correct.
This is in the aspect of human security, the one I'm talking about. The government of the Republic of Uganda, moving in the spirit and the policy of privatization, decided to privatize security. So the private security guards are like the police also. They are institutionalized. They are an institution. They have rules. They have a process, like what Afande explained here, on a process of how a person becomes a member of that force and how a person is deployed to the duty station, how a person is disciplined when he or she errs. So this requires, therefore, that we as policymakers should analyze happenings of this kind, beginning with this one.
Correct.
And then others and others, so that we can establish a pattern before we can come with maybe a policy amendment or a new policy to control, to regulate the security forces. This incident here needs to be looked together with others of similar nature.
Okay.
But a gun is a gun. Guns have uses and control how it is used for all security forces. For example, one rule for all is that if you have a gun, don't point the gun at something you are not willing to destroy. This one applies to Afande here, it applies to the UPDF, it applies to the SFC, it applies to anyone who has a gun. Now, do they follow these rules of how to keep a gun? There are cases where people have been killed also when it is not by accident. Someone premeditates things, plans, organizes a crime and kills another person. Recently, we had a case, this time with the UPDF, I think even last month or so, around the Ginger, when a UPDF officer killed his colleague.
Right.
And the body had to be retrieved from the river. There are cases where robbers come and kill people, like this case of mobile money. Those ones are economic crime because the reason for the killing here, the motive for the killing is to get the money. What about the one of the UPDF officer who killed a fellow colleague? You did not take anything from him.
So, Honorable,
what about this one?
Right.
Of my brother here at Nalia? What was the motive?
Right.
Was it to take money from him? What was the motive? So we need to go beyond what we see
and form a pattern.
And form a pattern so that we can come up with a formula to say, if you do this, you get this result.
But Honorable,
and if you don't want this to happen, you should stop it from this way and that way.
Then Honorable, like Mr. Luke Oyesigire did, pretty much recommend, so to speak, how fast should we implement that? He proposed that, how about we have a mechanism where there's, constant supervision of these, institutions and bodies and individuals who own firearms, so to speak, or operate firearms. What will it take for that to be put in place?
First and foremost, the issue of supervision of the institutions that are allowed to carry guns has also some kind of gaps. If you go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, you ask, how many private security guards are there in Uganda? And how many soldiers, how many personnel do they have? What are the background, what is the background of each of these personnel? And then where is the directorate which controls these people? Who are the owners of this? You find some of the people who are in security, all the big people in government, because of this assumption of trust, that you are a trustworthy person because you support the NRM, you cannot turn your guns of your private security guard against the regime. They license you. Then there's that kind of laxity based on the false assumption that because you are an NRM supporter, you can have an efficient private security guard company. Therefore, the checks on your systems will be relaxed, they will be forgotten because they assume for you there is no problem. Now, if it was Fungaro Caps Hassan, a member of the opposition with a private security guard company, they will say, this one is suspicious. And again, the checks they will put on me will not be really to make sure that my force is efficient, but it is intended to make sure that my force doesn't harm the regime.
So what you're saying is that the greatest challenge to this to be implemented, for this to be implemented, is that issue of the whole space has already been politicized.
Yes, that's the problem, because they relax when they know it is my brother or Sigire or another name somewhere around there. They say, standards. They say, okay, this one there is no problem, this one is a good person.
But, Honorable, politics aside, what will it take for such measures and regulations to be put in place?
First and foremost, we must be objective. Good is good and bad is bad, regardless of who is involved in this. Now, when we start from that premise, we must go to the next of saying rules are rules. They must apply to all, regardless of the situation, and the process must go on and on to make sure that those who are recruited to the private security guard must conform to the rules. And again, you see, this problem of insecurity, now going to the extent of human security, must go beyond the police. It goes even also to our side, to our social being. Religious leaders, what do they preach when they are in the church or in the mosque? Today you find most of the preachings are about opportunity other than sin. They say, we pray for you to get money, to get a wife, to get a husband, to get a passport, to get rich. Now, this preaching of saying, if you kill, you go to hell, is disappearing. If you lie, if you break the 10 commandments, you go to hell. The preaching in the mosques, in the churches must be refocused to heaven or hell, so that there's some kind of self-restraint from the individual.
So we all have a role to play.
Breaks within his conscience that doing wrong is bad, then you will reduce this. You cannot have a fund everywhere. You have people everywhere, but if everybody is restrained from committing sin, and then the person will be restrained from committing crime.
Okay.
You see, that's the
strengthening the moral fabric.
The moral fabric should be strengthened.
All
and
right.
this goes to cultural leaders, this goes to religious leaders, not police, not parliament.
All right. Afande, before we wrap this up, as we just bring this to a wrap, you know, in 2018 we did see, you know, police halting the issuance of, you know, licenses, gun licenses to civilians, and of course that has been lifted since, and still civilians can own guns. But for civilians, what's the process like? Is it as thorough as it ought to be, looking at maybe someone's temperaments? Because we always say that someone who is, you know, quick to anger, who has some short temper, ought not to hold such, you know, firearms, so to speak. So how thorough is this particular process as we wrap this up?
Well, there is no difference than the one I explained earlier on.
It's similar.
It is almost similar. Okay. The only difference that is there is that to become a private company, you have to register with URSB. So it's a private citizen. You don't need to register anywhere. You're known in the country.
Okay.
So what happens when you need a firearm? There has to be cause. Like a reason why you want this firearm, and that reason must be investigated by our crime intelligence department to know that this person's life is in danger and the state has no capacity of putting a bodyguard on him.
Okay.
If he has the ability of owning a firearm, investigations have to be done against the person to see that he is in the right state of mind, to see that he's a good citizen, has never been involved in any criminality. It is forwarded to the Security Council, rather to the District Security Committee, and the Security Committee instructs the DPC to make sure that thorough investigations are done upon this person.
As I found it this morning, you're confident that the process is quite thorough, and
it is very thorough, and why I'm confident about it is that we recalled most of the private firearms that were, even those of private organizations were recalled, and the fingerprinting of those firearms was done. So in any case, if this gun has committed any act of criminality, investigations can be done and the perpetrator can be called. We'll
bring you back, of course, at a later date. Unfortunately, we're running short of time, just to have a conversation of the smuggling of these firearms into the country, because of course firearms that are used by robbers, by armed robbers, are not licensed, so to speak. So thank you so much, Afande Luke Oesigere, for coming in studios, the Deputy Police Spokesperson, Kampala Metropolitan. Thank you so much. And also Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaro, Member of Parliament's Defence and Internal Affairs Committee. As the committee looks into this matter, we actually will bring you back so you can get to tell us what the recommendations will be, so to speak, moving on. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Later on, actually at this point in time, I'm being told that the technical team has gotten a solution for us, so we'll be linking directly to David Rukasi. He'll be having a conversation with young Muslim brothers just to get to understand what happens in the madrasa classes. Good morning, David. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Mada. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all those that are watching us this morning. We are at Biral Islamic Schools, and it's 10 years since those 2010 bombings. One was in Lugogo, the other was at Ethiopian village in Kabalagala. Over 80 deaths reported on that date and after that date as well. And this is what happens every single time you hear of bombings in Kampala, in Europe, anywhere in the world. The first thing that comes up is Islam's, and we have heard of statements like Islamic militants, or we have heard of all this radicalization that happens. And today we decided to come here to Biral Islamic Schools to talk to the teachers, talk to the students as well, and get their views on that. There's been many claims that this happens, the radicalization happens right here in schools, it happens in mosques. So we decided, well, we're not going to accuse people. Let's get down here and talk to them. And first I'm going to talk to the teachers. As you can see, we already have the students here. But I'm going to talk to the teachers first. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Your names?
My name is Sebiala Shafiq. I'm a teacher here as well as an administrator. we want to welcome you to our institution, Bilal Islamic Schools, boys.
Okay, good stuff. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Your names?
I'm Jagadnan, head teacher Bilal Islamic Secondary School.
The suggestions are always there that it is in these schools that the radicalization happens. It is in these mosques that the radicalization happens. What's your take on that?
It is a misconception, basically not knowing what is taught in our Islamic institutions. According to what we impart in these learners is basically discipline, teaching them how they should be good citizens, but not in the perspective as some people view that in Islamic institutions is where radicalism begins from.
Okay. Islam is a religion of peace.
Of course.
But for many, it has been misunderstood because of, let's say, a few individuals that have led to some of these incidents that have happened. What do you do as a teacher? You have students here that, walk up to you and ask, why is it that Islam is always, pointed out when we come to incidents like this? How do you explain that? How do you feel about it?
Thank you very much. You can't refuse people to give their views, what they want to speak. Many people lament Islam and Muslims as terrorists, but the actual truth, Islam always teaches peace. That's why always the first greeting a Muslim should say to another, Assalamu alaikum, meaning wishing himself and the other peace. So for us as teachers in the institutions, we are trying to see that if a Muslim is called a terrorist, these learners, the students, are taught, first of all, to believe in themselves that they are people of peace. And we teach that, or we encourage them that they should not support or collaborate with the criminals who are supporting terrorist acts. So as our institution, we are much aware that the Islam or the Muslim community is lamented as a group of terrorists, but it's not true. If somebody does so, like what happened to our sisters and brothers in 2010, very sorry, may their soul rest in eternal peace. It was inhuman, it was an impunity which should not be in our community. So as Muslims, from there we are fighting to see that the name Muslim terrorists should change. Muslims should be peaceful people in the community. Muslims should be always peaceful, and that is what we are encouraging our learners. That is what we are imparting the learners, that Islam does not support. Okay. Islam discourages those acts of terrorists.
Okay, good. That's it from the teachers because we don't have that much time. So I'm going to talk to the students here so that I can get their views as well. I know many of them are looked at as wearing your coffee here and they say, there comes the terrorists. So I want to find out from them what is their field. Sewalu Fauzan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So how does it feel when you walk around knowing that there are few people there that are looking at you as a terrorist?
Actually, I usually get perturbed when they call me a terrorist. First of all, Islam is derived from the word salam and means peace. So if someone calls me a terrorist, I can't stop him from talking, but I do believe that I'm not a terrorist. Let me tell you one thing. Kalamun nas ashbahu biturab. Words of people are like dust. If they don't go by wind, they will stick on your feet. So we can't stop them from talking, but we as Muslims, we don't associate with terrorists.
Okay. Madam, you know very many times you walk into places covered up like that and they're like, there she comes. Why is she hiding something under there? How does that feel for you?
I feel bad for that, but it's not the way it is. As we Muslims, we wear hijab so as we can be able to keep our bodies safe. Because if at all you wear indecent clothes, they're going to look at you as an indecent woman. I decided to wear decent clothes as a Muslim woman. About terrorism in Islam, Islam is all about peace. If at all we find some cases about peace, we have to. Islam always encourages to keep peace in our certain communities.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I have these two people here. Because of time, we have to run, but I'm just going to get just a word or two from them before we wrap up. Your names?
Hamis Muhammad.
Muhammad, how does it feel being a Muslim? Does that, when they call you a terrorist, does it at any point you feel like any regret of being a Muslim?
No, I don't. Really, those people, it's just that people's understandings that do make them say so.
Okay.
But really, as a Muslims, you should expect anything that one could say about Islam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Your names?
Nyanzi Sarah.
Sorry?
Nyanzi Sarah.
Nyanzi Sarah.
Yes.
You love, they preach peace here?
Of course.
So what happens? Where is that happening?